Hi there, my name is Ben Foss, and today we're going to be demonstrating how you would demonstrate speech technology to people who may not know a lot about it. I'd like to introduce Heather, who's a teacher here at the Charles Armstrong School in California. Let's now flip. Let's say we've done this demonstration for them. What kind of questions do you think you're going to get from the teachers who are unfamiliar with this technology?
I think for as far as how we would use it in the classroom, the question is going to be, well, are we going to need to provide her with a computer on all reading assignment? How are we going to be able to have, because I think this would be a great tool in the textbooks they use, but the question is, do those textbooks exist online to do this kind of program, you apply this resource?
Sure.
I think for when if we plan her IEP so she has pull-out time, this will be a great tool that she can do with that tutor. And so trying to figure out how we can work it in her resource time and how we can work it within the classroom is questions that probably will come up.
I hear three questions there. The first question is, does the student then need to have a computer at all times? That is preferred. Many schools do have a computer lab, and a student can go and use that computer lab. One option is for students to get their hands on an iPad. Now, schools may not have these available necessarily for students, but the students do have a right under the Individuals with Disability Education Act to have a reasonable accommodation. There's information on the website elsewhere where you can learn about how to talk about your rights, and we can go through that. But it's not really a question of cost, and the way to approach that is to say, this isn't really the meeting where we decide what the budget is, we decide whether it's appropriate for them and whether it provides them with reasonable accommodation. The second question you had was, where can you get content like this? There's a couple places. Many times the worksheet that a teacher is handing out is something that they wrote up themselves, so they might have a Word document. Another two great resources is Learning Ally or Bookshare. Those are book sources that we can get that are available. And they have free audiobooks available, so it can be this, or it can
be a literature book.
It can be a literature book, and it can be a text version of it.
Okay.
And then your final question concerned, how will it integrate into the classroom? Will they be separate or together? Ideally, they'll do it in the classroom, and you can put earphones on and listen to it privately. You can also do it on a mobile phone device, and then the kid doesn't have any stigma because kids are listening to their phones all the time.
Yeah,
so you can have audiobooks on here, and there's other videos that demonstrate that. So those are the type of questions that come up. Another question that comes up frequently is, will this kid not learn to read as a result of this?
Yeah.
Will this become?
Will they just be relying on the visuals?
Will this become a crutch?
Hearing?
A crutch. I would highlight two things. One, a ramp is not a crutch. A ramp is a way into the building, and we're going to provide it for students who have disabilities. Same thing here. Separately, I would highlight that this actually can increase fluency in reading because you get to track the word and read it while you're doing it. And the software highlights the word, and you can go along with it. So those are the basics of introducing this and trying to overcome that kind of a challenge that you might get from the school. Any other questions?
Based on what you just said about it highlighting the words, now we highlighted the whole thing and then it read it. Is there a way that when it reads it, it actually is highlighting the words on the computer?
So that depends on the program that you use.
Okay.
There are specific engines, and there's a list of them on the website. A great one is called Clara Read. They will highlight that software. It costs a little bit more, or the stuff that's built into the Apple iPad already highlights it for you.
Okay.
So it depends on what software you're using, but you can get features if you pay a little bit more money, and again, that's the responsibility of the school to cover it.
Yes. I did notice, personally for me, it's very computerized. It doesn't sound like a human voice. And as a result, if they're relying on that and hearing that, maybe a concern from when I go in this meeting might possibly be that they're not hearing the natural prosody, I say I struggle with that word, and flow as of if a human being was saying these words.
It's an understandable concern. So the way I've always sort of pronounced it is prosody.
Thank you.
So prosody is emphasis, pausing, and breath in language, and it's creating a cadence that a person can follow easily. This one's a little harder to follow initially, but if you can master it, it becomes actually better because you can accelerate this. Whereas if you accelerate prosody, it ends up sounding like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and it's not as good. So there's a trade-off there, and you have to explain that the speed speed
Adjustment.
is an adjustment, and that's
Okay.
that's an important trade-off there.
Okay,
Also,
perfect.
you don't have to go over and ask the teacher for help. You don't have to ask your parents for help. You can just do it on your own.
Right.
And that's a big benefit, rather than having someone sitting there doing it.
And I like that the student can control the speed, because I feel for especially students with learning differences in the areas of reading, it's important for them to hear it multiple times
Yep.
and to read multiple times. And so the fact that we can change the speed, maybe we start at a slow, medium speed and
Right.
then pick it up as
You can
we're
move
familiar
10%
with
a
the
day.
text
Yep.
or so on.
Well, I think at this point we'll wrap up the demonstration for today. I'll tell you that on the website we have more information where you can see demonstrations of each of these individual technologies and a discussion of how to talk to your school and language you should use.